Hey everybody. We'll see how the audio's doing. It has been a very long time since I've done a stream. I think it's been a week or two. So hence the title, long time no stream. Getting myself set up to start painting again, start streaming again, start teaching again, doing all the great stuff that comes with the fall. I haven't felt the I guess that shouldn't matter, but I haven't streamed in a while, largely because the work that I've been doing on book 2 has just been kind of finishing work. And finishing work is always a bit of a grind. So that's one of the things that you don't see a lot of when we're working as artists, because it's just kind of a little bit tedious. But I thought to myself, might as well just stream, because I got to keep myself in the habit of doing it, and I want to make sure that I'm getting it all done. So right now I'm working on 2 sequential pages from excuse me. Wow, it has been a while. Rusty, blowing the cobwebs off here. But I'm working on 2 sequential pages from book 2, and just absolutely tiny detail on these pages. So I don't know how well I'm gonna do painting this small at the distance that I have to so that you can see it, but we'll see how it goes. There we go. That's coming along. I mean, this character right here that's appearing, running out when this werewolf that I'm working on is being taken out by this witch, and she's coming to the rescue. She doesn't know it yet, but she is an absolutely tiny figure, smaller than a penny. So I have to really kind of zoom in on it to get it to work, which is kind of hard when I'm streaming. But like I said, I want to get in the habit, and I've got to do what I've got to do to keep myself streaming, keep myself engaged. So nothing too profound to say, just kind of getting my feet under me. And it's been a crazy couple of weeks. My daughter got a pet bunny, so that has been a huge part of our week. And we were also away on vacation, so that's a bit of the reason why I haven't streamed in a while. And yeah, just finishing up the detail work on book 2, which is available in the link in the description. And again, this is Shanth Enjeti and Shanth Enjeti Art, in case you're wondering how to pronounce that wild name there. I will say, though, that I have not been off of YouTube. I have been watching some streamers and some YouTube channels that I enjoy, and but I haven't been in a position to make any content. I think the longer it is between streams, the harder it is to get back into it. So this is kind of just a forcing myself to stream and get myself into that space where I can keep doing this again. But I've been watching some great stuff out there, and seeing some interesting work, but I want to make sure that I'm not letting this channel go too long without any content. And a big part of that is just getting back in the habit. I was talking to a buddy of mine today named Nick, and my brother, really, more than just a buddy of mine. And we were talking about art, and we were talking about being creative, and we were talking about making work, and how so much of being an artist and so much of what's important for people to understand when they're, interested in being an artist is just about making work. It's not about theorizing. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about understanding what you're working on. Actually, not even understanding what you're working on. Understanding that it's a physical process of making work, and making sure that you're staying on top of it always. And I'm always working, even when it's not something that I'm streaming. But I also think that one of the big factors for me, you see that's in frame, good that is. One of the big factors for me is I want to make sure that I'm having the same attitude I have with painting towards this channel. And just saying, get in the habit of streaming. If I want to do this, do it. If I don't want to do it, that's all fine and good. But I'm interested in doing this, and I'm interested in developing whatever this thing is. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know, at least it's interesting to me. I don't ever know what these things are about, I remember when I started my Instagram, thanks to the gentleman who's going to be doing the introduction for book 2, a gentleman by the name of Cameron Scott Davis. He's a concept artist, worked on Guitar Hero, and just a terrific guy, terrific nice guy. And he kind of inspired me to get on Instagram and start putting my work out there. And I had no idea that it would turn into anything or where this whole thing would go. And it was wild because if he hadn't told me just to go out there and, or showed me, I should say, the virtue of going out there and putting your work out there, I wouldn't have done it. And it's the same thing with YouTube. I think as I do these art books and I promote these art books, YouTube is just so important as a part of that. And so that's kind of one of the things I've been saying to myself lately, which is make sure that I put the stuff that I'm doing out there to the audience that is interested in purchasing and picking up the stuff, and for the people who already have, so they can see progress on the book. So this is pretty much what I've been up to. I've been setting up my studio space. I've got a better camera rig, and as you can tell right now, this the laptop and what I'm sort of filming myself on as I do the work, the camera that I talk to, is up on a tripod that supports the laptop. So a lot of the stuff I've been working on is getting things set up and getting things into a state where I can work on them. And, I've been obviously busy with the family, something that I enjoy and is very important as a dad, to spend time with the kids and spend time with my wife, Lauren, my wife of soon to be 20 years. I can't believe we've been married for 20 years. And one of the things about it is that while all of that stuff, there's so much stuff that demands our attention when we're working, and so many things constantly competing. And on one hand, and I think primarily, I'm absolutely grateful to have so many things going on. But on the other hand, it is a little bit like spinning plates. And I think there was a YouTuber that really had a huge influence on me starting this channel and starting to do this work, named John Malin. And the thing about it that was interesting is he was talking about art, and he was talking about artists in general. And he said that if you're an introvert, that's too bad. If you were an artist and you want to put your work out there, we're all introverts. I mean, I don't know how true that is in every single case, but he goes, I'm an introvert. You're not special. You're not interesting in that sense, in that regard. If you want to do this, if you want to promote your work and sell your work, you've got to get out there and you've got to ask people for their support of your work, and you have to go out there and sell it if you want to build an audience. And I mean an audience for the work. And it really kind of was, there was something in the way that he put that. He said, essentially it was pretty, what I liked about it is it's a lot how I understand things. It was fairly hardcore, and it was fairly he didn't mince words. He basically said, when somebody says they're an introvert and they're an artist and they're interested in selling their stuff, they need to, those two things sometimes are incongruous. And one of the biggest aspects of it that's incongruous is that you have to go out there as an artist, and you have to go out there as an illustrator if you want to sell your stuff, and if you want to build an audience. And most of us are kind of, I don't know, it's tough to say. I think we learn a lot about, we hear a lot about beating the pavement and sending stuff out, which is, great, sending artwork out. And back when I was in school, it was sending mailers out and showing your stuff to art directors. But if there's one thing that I've really seen, is that things have changed so fundamentally. And I don't mean fundamentally because of whatever the current situation could be described as, or just we'll affectionately describe it as 2020. It's not because of that. It's more because of everything that's been building up to 2020. It's been the ability to put your artwork out there, the ability to crowdfund, the ability to stream. to have essentially a live TV show where you talk about your work. All of that stuff is accessible. And so it's really kind of democratized the ability to put your thoughts out there, I should say, pitch your own product and build an audience. And I think that the biggest thing I would say to anybody who wants to do their work, and the big thing I learned from Instagram, I had no idea what people would think of my work outside of the small sort of, circles that I was moving in. I mean, I know a lot of successful people in the industry, and I've worked in the industry myself of illustration or entertainment or concept art or video games or whatever that stuff is. Not the largest part of my life has been my career, teaching. And then, of course, doing my artwork and freelance jobs. But the thing about it is that if you have an idea for work that you want to be doing that fits outside of that, the way that you would have to build an audience would be going from convention to convention and kind of, pitching your stuff to people and hoping that you could get them interested in your work in a few minutes. Whereas now there seems to be this really big audience out there. And so I was incredibly surprised when I put my stuff out there in this new thing where I wasn't having to compete. We all kind of had an equal footing. It's just, does your stuff, do people see your work, and are they drawn to it? That, I was able to get my work out there and people were able to respond to it. If it wasn't for Instagram, if it wasn't for this time period we're living in, Artbook 1 and Artbook 2, which is, the link to that's in the description, they wouldn't exist. And I wouldn't be painting all of these kind of bizarre, sort of fun, weird subjects I was always painting, but I wouldn't be painting them for printing up a book. That never would have happened. And so I'm always kind of sort of surprised by that. But I'm finding myself fascinated and engrossed in looking for people who get that, who get how to make use of this this time period that we're in as artists. I think I'm gonna leave that panel alone, let that dry a bit. There we go, because I'm just kind of working over it, and I need to work on things if I have an idea for how I want to push them. So I feel good about that one, that one, that one. Now I got to get some more value here because that's too close to the background. And I also want to have cool highlights and then warms in the shadows. And right now I've got all the cools in, but the shadows aren't there. There we go. And the cool thing about gouache is that gouache will reactivate. So when you're doing flesh tones, you're doing anything that you want, to get that kind of vibe to you. There we go. I've got a nice silhouette on that now. It's just, it honestly is just that rhythm of light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. That's what you're going for. But my studio mate is doing a series of nude figures right now, which is a new thing for him. And he's been posting those on Instagram, and I'm amazed at the stuff that he's doing with flesh tone. So we've been having a lot of conversations about flesh tone lately and just how, complicated it is. I think he takes a lot more of a complicated approach to it than I do. I mean, my approach is usually pretty value-based. It's not really, I don't know how to describe it. It's not really me thinking about the skin and what the skin is made of and all of that kind of stuff. I'm more kind of trying to get the general light effect of that I need for the composition and for the storytelling. So I probably don't put as much nuanced thought into it. But to be honest with you, I found that nuanced thought is, and getting sort of obsessed in nuanced thought is kind of the road to madness. I've seen a lot of people get really hung up on that whole thing. And you can sort of see when you look at a book like this, or 2 pages from a book like this, you can just see how complicated it gets and how immense everything gets within the space. And you have to kind of zoom out. And if you look at a painting like this right there, those two, this is my favorite panel kind of in the book, because what that is right there is there are 2 kids who are probably under the age of 2, And that's the reference for that are my two kids, who are now soon to be 15, but they're 14 years old right now. And I always put them, because I'm a cheesy dad, I always put my kids in every single book. So when you're looking at book 1, which is one of my first book, and I'm incredibly proud of it, this is what book 1 looks like, in case all of you wonderful people out there who backed, this is even better. In case all of you wonderful people out there who are like, oh my gosh, when is book 2 coming? It's coming, folks. I am just trying to make sure it's as quality as I can and get it taken care of. So this is what book 1 looked like. Nice glossy cover stock. And then this is what the pages look like. And these are some of the crazy paintings and characters and illustrations that are in there. So I'll do the full painting, and then I'll do a detailed close-up. And this is some of the work that's in book 1. And some of these, if you look at them carefully, you might think, oh wait, is that the same thing? So perfect example. That right there is my handsome son, my lad, my young lad, Aiden. And he's in this battle scene. He's got his fists raised. And there he is. And he posed for that while I was working on book 2. And this is my awesome daughter, Priya. And she is in a scene, both of those two actually, but this one in particular are based on the gamesters of Triskelion from Star Trek, the original series. And that's actually a Komodo dragon that was kind of inspired by the Gorn. And so I kind of made her look like one of those characters with a little nod to Larry Buster Crabbe, but there she is taking care of, to try to help that character. And then here's just another painting from that book. There's the details. And so here you go. It's all about fantasy. It's all about character and creature. I just love making this stuff. I really love this book. I think I'm going to be doing a second printing of this book for everybody who missed it. I'll probably give it a new cover. If any of you guys are interested, feel free to say, hey, I'm interested in the chat. And I will try to get this done. But yeah, this book was such a joy and such a fun thing to work on and do. And there's the rhinoceros character there. I just love working on this stuff. And a lot of these are just inspired by, movies and art and, figure, my love of giant gorillas. I have to tell you, I've not flipped through this book in a long time, and it's really getting me excited for book 2. And this is my favorite painting I think that I've ever done. It pretty much sums up being a dad for me. Gosh, I can't believe it's been so long. And then here's a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look, which all my books will have some behind-the-scenes in them. This one, it will be no exception. I have a lot of behind-the-scenes. One of the people who follows me on Instagram, an amazing pen and ink artist, or brush and ink artist in his own right, is an artist by the name of J.M. Dragunis. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And he actually bought the sketch for one of my paintings that's going to be in the book, but I did a high-res scan of it so I could include it in the behind-the-scenes. So he owns something that's actually going to be in the book. And then, of course, I've got a bunch of sketches that I get to do for everyone who backed the book at a sketch level. So let's see. I've got that in there. I've got the witch in there. And I've got the moon. I've got the kids. I've got the wolves here and the attack there, and there's the werewolf painting. Super happy with how the face on that werewolf character came out, and her as well. I think that figure came out really well. Happy with how that looks. And I think, of course, my favorite thing is always when I get a chance to paint eyes. That's always a fun part for me because I like painting eyes. So yeah, I'm thinking these things just need a couple more little bits and details to them, and they'll be ready to rock and roll. So I'm going to take these, see if that's dry. Hopefully these are dry. Yeah, that one looks like it's dry. I try not to stack them on top of each other, because if I do, they can get smeared, and that's not something I'm really wanting to have happen with my paintings. So I'm just going to lay it over here on the art book, and then I'm going to move this one over here, and I'm going to take a look at this one, which which is another one that I'm in the finishing phase. And apologies if this is boring, but there's not much I can do about it, because that was the worst apology I think I've ever made. But what I'm really trying to do at this point is, and the biggest part of the job at this point is finishing work. Finishing work, trying to figure these things out and get them to the point where the book is ready to ship and ready to be printed. And as I look at this stuff, I have to be honest with you, it's more finished than I thought it was, and that's great. Some of the stuff that I do at this stage of it is purely subjective. It's purely about, balancing out the values and seeing if I want to add something over here or add something over there. But it's not as if the book is incomplete at this point, and that's kind of the weird aspect of it. It's I look at these characters, I'm really happy with this one, how it's coming along, and I think this one is almost getting there, really almost getting there. So I'm looking at those. I think that one's alright. Let's see what else I have here that I need to do. Oh yes, this one right here, the vampire story. Now this is one that I could kick myself for a lot of reasons, but with this one, the thing that frustrates me so much about it is I wasn't sure if I wanted to have type in there, and so I had type in there, and I just got rid of it, and I wish I had not done that, because it was, it absolutely needed type, and that's, that was an important bit of it, so now I'm going to put that type back in. I think that's what it needs. And the original idea for the story was Fang Noir, and the werewolf story I just showed you is called The Witch's Hollow, and it's got a double meaning, and the double meaning is, let me just move this down, I'm going to zoom in there, we go, and that one was called, let's move the camera so you guys can see, there we go, that one was called The Witch's Hollow, and had the double meaning of both a location, the Witch's Hollow, like Sleepy Hollow, and then the other aspect of it is that the promises of the witch, and the witch herself is hollow, and there's nothing there, and that's the kind of fun with naming these things. And I had done when I sign my books for people, I really try to put time into the quality of my signature, like one of my heroes and my inspiration for my work, Todd McFarlane, did. And so it's the same thing with when I'm brush lettering. Fang. There we go. And I have to be honest with you, sometimes I'll lay my type out, but for this I don't really want to. I kind of want it to feel hand-lettered, hand-done. When somebody buys one of my books, everything is just done by hand. So I will be probably packing your book. I will definitely be signing your book, but there is no book that's going to leave this house and go out to you guys that I did not personally put my hands on, and hopefully I won't leave too many fingerprints, which I usually try not to. There we go. So the idea for this is that this is going to be the kind of the first pass on this, and then I may go in and just tighten everything else up a little bit. Like I usually will do a highlight so it looks like a drop shadow on it. We'll see. And sort of a fun little play on words, Fang Noir versus Film Noir. There we go. I like that being a little bit little bit thicker there. There we go. And then it's starting to come together. Turn it on its side just to check. I think it's looking all right. There we go. And so this book right here, when all is said and done, is really going to be a continuation. Let's see if I can get that up there. There we go. Gosh, I can't see. Oh, I should just check the monitor. That's a little bit easier. Is really going to be a continuation of what I started with book one. And it's a little bit daunting. It's a little bit intimidating because, or it was, I should say, because book one is so good. I really was proud of it. And I don't usually say that about my work. When I was working in comics, or when I was self-publishing in comics for that matter too, well, both, I always got my projects back, and I was always disappointed in myself, in the work. I just looked at them and I thought, I really wanted that to be better. And I can honestly tell you, as opposed, I guess, to dishonestly telling you, but I can honestly tell you that book one was the first thing that I've ever done where I was like, there may be flaws in it in certain ways or something, who knows. But I just absolutely was proud of it. I felt I knew I was sending out a great product and some of the best work I've ever done. And the best work, like, I still look at that work and I'm so proud of it. And it's the same way with book two. And as an artist, I can't ask for much more from the experience. I cannot if you had told me a couple of years ago that I was going to be here, that I was going to be on YouTube, for heaven's sake, that I was going to be doing any of the work that I'm doing right now, I wouldn't have believed you, because it was so outside of what my life experience had been up to that point. And so to be here now chatting with you guys and doing this whole thing and getting into the groove of doing this is really kind of remarkable for me. And I can't believe the world I'm living in. One of the things about teaching that has always been weird, and I'm coming to kind of realize how much things have changed, but it's always been work that you do in private. I worked at a place called Rhode Island School of Design for 15 years, and one of the things I learned about teaching, college, and certainly just being a teacher in general, you could be the best teacher in the world, but you affect people's lives. You could teach all these people how to paint, but at the end of the day, no one ever sees your work. The students see your work, but nobody ever really sees what you're doing. You might have a department chair, you might have somebody, back when I was a young teacher, which I don't think I really had, swing by. But if your classes are filling, and if all these people are reacting to your work, in a couple of years, no one will know you ever taught there. No one will ever know, because teachers retire, teachers move on, all of that kind of stuff. And what's crazy is that the reason why is because you haven't ever been able to broadcast anything. And it's the ability to share your artwork, and the ability for people who have something interesting to say to put, or who knows if it's interesting, but to put themselves out there is completely unique to this time. And to me, it just seems like it's foolish to not put yourself out there when you're in this time, because I think for a very long time, it's hard to describe, but for a very long time, one of the things that kind of made teaching both kind of a really amazing thing to do and also frustrating is you're in such a bubble when you're doing it. You're in such a bubble of working with people, but no one ever really sees your work at the end of the day. And that was great. There's to be honest with you, I love that idea. It's the anonymity of it, but that's kind of gone with cell phones and with everything. You really don't have any anonymity. Things have kind of changed so much in teaching. you're talking to a bunch of people, and it's kind of got that illusion. But I wouldn't say that it's there was a thing that went on where I'm trying to think of how not to say this, but there's at the school I went to college in, there was some fascinating stuff going on, and with alums talking about X, Y, and Z, and that's all fine and good, but it made me realize that you basically have all of the downside of anonymity when you're working in education these days, with none of the pluses of it. And it's kind of interesting because in a lot of ways, being able to stream and put your stuff out there is something that I think that a lot of people from that world, and I was very much from that world, are very slow getting to it. So we have a lot of experience talking, and we have a lot of experience doing X, Y, and Z, but we have very little experience with just putting our stuff out there. And it's not for everybody, but I remember when I was going to college, and certainly when I was coming up as an artist, you would go on to a campus and everybody would hear, oh my gosh, you got to take a class with this person, you got to take a class with this person, but you don't know that person exists if you're not going to that college. And it's strange because I think a lot of the things that make people interesting, successful, or in demand when they're college professors are things that translate very, very well to just putting yourself out there. And in a lot of ways it was like a training ground for an introvert to teach college for as many years as I have. I think this is going to be year 17. But I think that at the same time, I don't know if that's always going to be the case. And I feel very, very fortunate that I've been able to get my work out there, and I've learned a lot from the community of YouTubers that I follow, and some of them have been unbelievably kind and reached out to me, and it's crazy to see people who have almost, as many or more followers as I have on Instagram, which that happened without me thinking about it, but just being so kind and supportive and respectful of doing work and having a channel. It's really cool. And I think those are the people that I'm enjoying being around more and more, even if it's just watching their stuff, but the occasional conversations that we have via email or anything else, or sometimes in the chat, particularly with Michael of The Choice Voice, who just did an absolutely fantastic, really enjoyed it today, audio commentary for Blade, the first Blade movie. If you haven't given him a follow, I guess it is not gave. Apparently I teach. I should know that. But if you haven't subscribed to Michael's channel at The Choice Voice, do give it a subscribe. He's just a really he's a cool guy. Did a dynamite audio commentary for Blade, and I just watched the movie along with his audio commentary, and it's just so fun to do. There we go. There we go. I think that's coming along. Good. All right, so we've got that. Anything more? Okay, that's working out well. So I've got this, got this, got that type in there. I'm going to do some more with it. I haven't figured out exactly what that is yet. Bat's looking okay up top. And then the figure based on Madeline Collinson's looking good. I feel like that reads. I've got a couple of warm notes in there that I needed to get in there. What else do I got to do? Figures are doing okay. Let's see what else we got here. This one's done and scanned. And that one is the inspiration for the story that you're seeing right there. I did that piece, and I want a little short story to go along with it. Just a one page with you know, the equivalent of 2 comic book pages and then a bigger spread on it. So that's what I came up with there. But yeah, this is almost exclusively the smaller stuff, what you're seeing right here, that's going to be in the book. Come back to this one. I just want to knock out that one figure with a wash of red because I can't stand it, how it's looking. And I hope everybody's doing well. Again, my name is Shanth Enjeti. This is Shanth Enjeti Art. If you're interested in purchasing an art book with illustrations by me that will have some of these illustrations in it, actually all of these illustrations in it, there's a link in the description for it. So now I'm going to knock that back. Should have enough water on there. There we go. I'm just kind of wiping the brush off right there and giving everything a wash. So, because I need her to stay back in space. I can't have her getting too contrasty or it doesn't work. There we go. And then he's kind of in the foreground. This werewolf character is getting demolished. So there he is, right there. Put a little highlight on there. But I'm pretty happy with this. I think this is, I keep worrying that there's more for me to do, but I think I've just been in that zone for so long that I just need to kind of give everything a last pass and take a look at it for myself. I mean, when this book is printed, to give you an idea for pages like this, even though they're fairly close to one-to-one, the book fits inside of these panels. So everything you're seeing in here, no matter how detailed it is going to be a lot smaller. So it's yeah, her face looks good. I've got cools in the highlights, warms in the shadows. I've got 2 babies in there, which makes me think of my kids. Yeah, I gotta have my kids in every single art book. That's just how that works. Really need that. It's kind of the rule when you're a dad. You're dad and you love your kids, I guess. That's a big one. Making sure you do that job is probably the most important thing. But yeah, I go away with the kids on vacation. Had a really good time. I'm always a little bit antsy when I'm on vacation because I always want to work, but my long-suffering wife, God bless her, she has taught me a great deal, and my mother-in-law and my late father-in-law have taught me a great deal about the importance of relaxation and how to do it. That's a major thing for me now, so I try to keep myself focused. And what you're seeing in this panel is kind of a tiny little silhouette of a kid meeting a witch in a forest. And every sort of thing, you know, everything that's in this book, but particularly the stuff that's in this spread, is about kind of just overcoming difficult situations where you're kind of led astray in your life, or you're pushed off of a good and healthy kind of path, and which life's always going to do for you. That's the one thing it's exceptionally good at. And learning how to and rediscovering those things. And every character that's in this piece and everything that you see right here, it's not that the stuff is based on, you know, any particular people or anything like that. Although there certainly are some elements of things like that. But it's that it's based on my experience, and they all kind of reflect qualities of myself and qualities of people. And some people I admire and some people that I don't. And the witch is based on somebody I don't admire. And qualities I don't admire, too, for that matter, when they present themselves to within myself. But I think I don't believe that all art has to be cathartic, and I certainly don't. And I don't think that all artwork has to be biographical. I think that's kind of overrated, and certainly a little bit too gets a little too self-obsessed sometimes. But I do think that you have to kind of believe in and feel the things you paint if you're going to put the time in, and that's certainly my guarantee to everybody who backed the book, is that I'm all in on this stuff. this is what I'm interested in. And when you get the book, it's going to be quality because I was focused on it. So, there we are. So that crazy thing about sunlight is if you look up above you and you see the atmosphere, it's blue. So it shouldn't shock anybody that your highlights, where the light's the most intense, particularly on flesh tone, it's going to put blue into them. And that your warms are going to be where that cool light flows through that form, and it's going to create warm in the shadow if you've got something that's going to be acting like a filter, like skin. So always try to do little nods to that by putting some deliberately cool values, light values down. See what time we're at? Oh, 2:27. I'm feeling that. That's lovely. But I need to do it. Force yourself to stream. I remember when Harrison Ford was working on Return of the Jedi. I mean, I wasn't there or anything like that, but the stories, one of my favorite was Mark Hamill and him. They got found out that they were filming Star Wars there. I think it was in the middle of the desert in Utah, but I'm not positive. And so they signed autographs. And Mark Hamill signed his May the Force Be With You, and Harrison Ford signed his Force Yourself. And kind of makes me laugh when I think about it. But even outside of that, I think I've always thought about how important that aspect of making artwork is, just forcing yourself to do it and not waiting for somebody to ask you to do it. And I mean, there really is nothing. If you work hard and you gain the skills and you learn how to paint, there is absolutely nothing stopping you. And you're lucky enough to be in a country where you're free to speak your mind. There's nothing that's in your way in terms of success except for the hard work and the discipline. And that's what I would say to any young artist who's working: is don't get caught up in too much stupidity ever. Just avoid that stuff and just make your work and hone your craft. There we go. That feels a little bit better. See if that's coming in. Good. I mean, the truth is, or I should say that from my perspective, what I've seen is I've seen a lot of people with talent be able to find an audience. And I think the only people who think that's impossible are probably people who haven't developed the skills yet. That's fine. Develop them. That's all you have to do. But there really is, there's something to be said definitely for this time in terms of being able to get your work out there and make things happen. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I told my wife, I said, when I saw this book printed, the first book printed come off the stand, I had always thought to myself, if if I was hit by a bus the next day, I would sort of feel like I never created that work that really sort of spoke to me, that I did, that I did something that I felt really good about. And making that book, I can't say that anymore. I feel really proud of it and really grateful, frankly, that people backed it. It's very life affirming. And I don't mean life validating, to be clear, but it's very life affirming to kind of do as many years and decades of work as you do to get good, and then have it be appreciated and see that people appreciate it when you are able to do quality. Kind of relieves a lot of stress about, the kind of ideological or philosophical approach to life where everybody's a victim or victimizer. It doesn't really work out too well for anyone who's obsessed with that, because what you start to realize really soon is that anyone who sells you that stuff isn't interested in your success. They're invested in your failure. And don't ever let yourself be one of those people who's invested in your failure. Be invested in your success and work towards it. But nobody, truthfully, nobody takes anybody else's success. I've seen so many people, and long may it be, in crowdfunding campaigns and crowdfunding culture where they're just mutually supportive of each other. And I hope it stays that way for everybody who's in, you know, in that kind of business of promoting work. You know, I don't think that we have to, I just think we need to work hard, and I think that ideally artists are inspired, and typically artists are inspired by seeing other artists do great work. Most artists do, their idea of a worst nightmare is frankly having no one doing great work that inspires them, you know, or gives them something to chase, and I'm no different than that. My heroes are always on my mind when I'm working. People like Mobius, people like Alphonse Mucha, all the greats, Frank Frazetta. I don't need to be as good as them, quote unquote, or whatever. And let me be clear, I'm not saying quote unquote like I doubt that they're better than me. I'm saying it from a standpoint of that there's a attitude about that, acknowledging when people have superior skill, and that being a bad thing out there that I just don't understand. I will never understand that. Like, I don't, when I meet my surgeon, I don't want to be the best surgeon in the room. I want that person to be better than me at what they do as a profession. And I'm going to bring my A game. I'm not shooting for second best when I do my artwork, ever. And I'm certainly not trying to do my second best effort on my work. But when I see somebody do something great, it's healthy as an artist to acknowledge it. It's like, it's not taking anything away from an artist to acknowledge excellence in another artist. And believing that is a myth. Or I should say believing that myth is toxic and not good for you as an artist. Make good stuff and present it proudly as you can, and don't get sucked into the nonsense. That's the key. And to be honest, there's always going to be nonsense, but you don't have to be sucked into it. You don't have to care. Let me see. Okay, that's working. I think this one's almost there, guys. I think this one's almost there. Well, it is 2:34 in the morning, and I've been doing this for almost 50 minutes, so, which is not like I crossed the Nefu Desert or anything like that, but I appreciate you guys checking it out. I appreciate you tuning in. My name is Shanth Enjeti. This is Shanth Enjeti Art Book 2. That is available on demand on Indiegogo. It's already funded, and I'm looking forward to getting it printed up, scanned in, and shipped off to my backers. And it's just been an awesome ride, and I will keep you guys posted on my next Indiegogo once I get this thing taken care of, which I think is very likely going to be a reprint of Book 1, because there's been a lot of interest in getting Book 1, and it's not available. So I'm going to try to do a second printing of that, I think, at some point, that's got a different cover on it or something. So have a good night. Thanks for checking the show out. Peace. Take care, everybody. And I will see you soon.